us welcome you all back for the presentation on estate planning by Sid Mohanty, who has joined us today. And thank you, Sid, for joining us to give some awareness and knowledge about this very important thing of life, which before coming to the UK we never heard of. In fact, not even for the first 10 years after coming in here as well. But then, as age catches up and you start realizing more regulations and laws, which you are hopefully should be aware of from the very beginning, you start waking up. And that's where we are trying to wake up further and, of course, help other colleagues who may or may not be aware of about this important aspect, which one has to be have the knowledge of. So without further ado, I now hand it over to Sid, who I'm going to pin and share his thoughts. Regarding the audience, I would like to request, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box as how you feel while we go with the presentation. And there will be a 5-minute break after around 20, 25, 30 minutes when the Sid will stop and we'll go through all the questions. And there will be, during that break time, our colleague from International Association of Human Values will be joining us, sharing some important activities, and that will give the time to Sid to be able to formulate his answers, and then we will resume back with his answers and further questions and answers accordingly, with aim to finish it in 1 hour, maybe a few minutes up if you have got too many burning questions. So over to you, Sid. Thank you for joining us, and all yours now.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking all the time today to hear about this. My name is Sid. I'm an estate planner with Exlentra Estate Planning. And I've got around 13 years of experience as an estate planner here in UK. I'm not sure if you've heard about estate planning, but I'm sure everybody here knows what a will is and what a will does. So it's mostly centered around wills and trusts and other elements of estate planning. So today's objective is to give you an overview of this area of financial and wealth management. It's got elements of financial planning, wealth management, estate planning. So I'll go through it today and give you an overview of this area today. So without further ado, let's start. I'm just trying to move on to the next slide. Yeah, okay. So when we talk about estate planning now, most of us know about financial plans. And if somebody asks you, do you have a financial plan? You can think about, okay, having pensions, tax planning, other things in place. But if somebody asks you, do you have an estate plan in place? Then usually these are the three wide areas that it covers: wills, trust planning, and lasting powers of attorney is usually to handle any issues to do with your mental capacity and death.
Sorry, Sid, can you share your slides? I am not able to see it. I don't know if others can.
My slides.
I can see
we can see the slides.
Yeah, we can see the slide, Sid.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So basically, estate planning is the three cornerstones of estate planning. We have your wills, trust planning, and lasting powers of attorney, and associated tax planning with it, which goes with death planning. So let's look at these areas one by one. So this is basically the number of UK population without a will. And we are looking at, population of UK around 65, 67 million. So we're looking at around 2/3 of the UK population not having wills in place, which is a very large number. If you look at it, almost 70%, they don't have wills in place. Of course, the demographics, they change due to somebody, younger, the large proportion don't have it. People who are like elder, a higher proportion would have it. But this is like 2/3 of the UK population not having wills in place. And what is the reason for that? Is it because it's not important, it's not necessary? Or is there a lack of awareness in terms of what happens if you don't have a will in place? So we'll cover these areas in terms of, let's look at wills first, and why is it relevant in UK to have a will in place? In India, we don't really think about wills because in India, most of the things they pass on through the nomination system. In India, if I ask someone, do you have a will in place? They'll be like, oh, I'm still young, or I'm not a millionaire or a billionaire. Why should I make a will? So that's the common response. But let's look at what significance does a will have in UK, and why is it important to have one in place? So these are the 4 areas I wanted to discuss with you today regarding wills. Number 1 is intestacy. Now, these are laws of intestacy, which means that if somebody dies without having a will in place, then the laws of intestacy will apply to his estate. And by estate, I mean everything that you own is your estate, your property, your bank balance, your jewelry, your car, anything that is in your name is your estate in UK. And if you die, then the government has a default set of rules which they will apply to your estate, and they will distribute it according to that flow chart. If you Google laws of intestacy, you will see there's a flow chart, and there will be like, okay, in a situation, let's say you're married and you've got children, the first 322,000 of your estate goes to your partner, and half of the rest and the other half goes to your children when they are 18 years of age. So you can see it's not that straightforward. It's a common misconception that if you die, everything goes to your spouse. That's not the case, or your partner. They only get a certain portion of your estate, and the rest goes to your children. And the government does this because obviously they want to look after everyone. They don't want anybody to be dependent on government benefits or support or anything. What they want to basically ensure that they're looking after the spouse, they're looking after the child, they give something to the spouse, something to the child, everyone is happy, nobody is claiming any benefits from the government, or nobody's claiming anything from the state. So that's fine. So that's how intestacy works. If something happens to both the parents, then of course everything goes to the children, but then it's all in a trust and managed by the government till the children are 18, so they don't have access to that money till they're 18. If something happens to the whole family, a lot of people here from India, they don't have any family here in UK. So what's going to happen? Well, according to the laws of intestacy, they look at your parents, your siblings, your, next of kin, but then they're not going to go to India and locate your next of kin. They're going to give an advertisement here in the Gazette, wait for 6 months. If nobody makes a claim, everything goes to the Crown or to the government. So that could be the worst case scenario, where all your assets, they go to the government. So it's important to put things down in writing and say that this is what I want to happen. And that is what a will is essentially. It's a communication tool. So you're communicating to the government and saying that this is what I want to happen if something happens to me. This is how I want things to play out. So that's what a will does. In India, nomination system works for most of your assets, but here nomination system works only up to assets up to, in certain cases, up to £5,000. Anything more than that, it goes through the laws of intestacy. So it's very important to have a will in place. I'll come to the second point in a second, because there's been some changes happening according to the latest budget in that point. But the third point, guardianship. Now, this is mostly for people with minor children. And when I say minor, people who are children who are less than 18 years of age. So if you have children less than 18 years of age, what happens to those children? Where do they live? Who gets their custody? According to the default rules of the government, they are the property of the state. If you have not assigned the parental responsibility to somebody while you was still alive and had the mental capacity. So they are the property of the state, and the state will decide who looks after them. Now, you might want your family from India to get involved and get access to your children. It is highly unlikely that the state will allow minor children to go outside of the country to someone who they don't know if you wanted them to be involved in your children's life. And worst of all, they don't want the children going to countries where, they face a situation where they grow up in difficult circumstances, and they grow up and they sue the UK government because they were not looked after well when they were minors. So for that reason, there is a foster care system in UK which ensures that the children are grown up under direct supervision of the UK government. And like I said, the government always tries to play safe. They will not take any risks or any steps which will create any sort of controversy. So your children could end up with foster care if you have not assigned the parental responsibility through a guardianship, and the guardians can only be appointed through a will. So that's why a will is very important for parents who have children who are below the age of 18. Domicile, coming back to domicile. Now, domicile is a concept that is mostly important in UK from an inheritance tax planning point of view, because recently in news I was looking, there's a lot of buzz these days about inheritance taxes being introduced in India, and the Congress government abolished it in 1985, and all those things is coming out in the news. So it's something that's come to the fore quite recently. But having said that, domicile is basically where your parent was born. That's your domicile, where your father was born. So by default, most of us, let's say we are Indian domicile. So that's your domicile of origin. But in UK, they have deemed domicile rules. So if you're in UK for more than 15 of the last 20 years, then you're deemed domicile in UK, and then you're liable to pay taxes on your worldwide assets, including your Indian assets. So when you die, anything your Indian assets over a certain value will get taxed at 40% as well when it goes to your children. Now, domicile is a bit of a gray area, but having said that, there is a double tax treaty drawn out in 1956 between India and the UK for inheritance taxes. And there is some scope for you to bypass paying inheritance taxes on your Indian assets by applying the double tax treaty, but you need to do the planning properly. And some part of that planning is involved in how you write your will as well, to ensure that it doesn't fall foul of the deemed domicile rules. Like the deemed domicile rule will be there, but you can also show that you're Indian domicile and claim the double tax relief, which is something that you need to consider when you're writing your will. Now, jointly held assets. We all have assets jointly held. Joint properties are the most common example. I have a house with my partner. I've got a joint bank account. I might have other assets with my partner as well. What are the issues with jointly held assets? So moving on, when I write a will let's say I buy a will pack from the post office or the W.H. Smith or something, and then I fill out a template in which I say, oh, I die, give everything to my wife. When my wife dies, give everything to my children. That's absolutely fine. That's what I would want to happen as well. I mean, I'd give it to my immediate family, isn't it? Who else would I give it to? But then when you're doing this planning, you should also do it in such a way that is protected and ring-fenced from any third-party risks. And from that, what I mean, these are the kind of risks that we should be aware of. So let's say I've died, everything goes to my wife. She's alive for the next 30, 40 years. Eventually, when she dies, it goes to my children. But when my wife is alive, let's say she falls into financial difficulties, or for some reason she declares herself as bankrupt. If she becomes bankrupt, the creditors can make a claim because it's all in her personal name. Let's say she remarries. While she's alive, she'll have the best interests of my children. But let's say she remarries and then there's a divorce subsequently, or she dies or something, then according to the Inheritance Act, Family and Dependents, then the new spouse is the main beneficiary, because spouse always has precedence over the children, and then your children could be stepchildren for the new partner, and then they don't have any rights whatsoever. For the local authority now, most of your doctors, you're aware of care fees and other things. When you're old, you might need care and long-term care, that sort of thing. But then any care benefits provided, these are all means-tested benefits. So they will look at the amount of assets that's in your name, and if it's over a certain threshold, currently the threshold is between 14,000 and 23,250. So if you got assets more than that band, more than 23,250, you need to fund your care by selling your assets. Now, most of us, I believe, will have assets more than 23,250. And if we leave everything in our partner's name and our partner goes into care, then the care costs are quite high. It's a few £1,000s a week. So it's and which was meant to be my children's inheritance. Now that is something that can go away in a few years if you go into care. So what you can do is do the planning in such a way that your share is ring fence for the children, even if your partner goes into care, and that's protected from being means tested by the local authority. Residence allowance. So this is basically, again, when you do the planning in the will, it's important that you take into account all the allowances available to you for inheritance taxes. Now, each individual has an allowance of 325,000, which up to which they can give tax-free to anyone when they die. So when I die, 325,000 of my money goes tax-free to whoever I want. Anything more than that gets taxed at 40%. Now, there is spousal exemption. So any money going to my wife is tax-free completely. But yes, when my wife dies, then anything going to my children, then her allowance can be clubbed as well, 325. Then anything over 650 will get taxed at 40% when it goes to my children. But what the Conservative government did in 2017 is that they said that if you are a homeowner, then you are able to claim an additional allowance on top of the 325K, which is the residential allowance, which is a 175,000 top up on top of the 325K. So that makes it 500,000 each, 325 plus 175. So 500,000 each for both the spouses. So up to £1 million can now go free of taxes to my children. And again, when I do the planning in the will, I need to do the planning in such a way that I am able to claim the whole allowance. So that's again another thing. Bloodline planning. Now, when we both die, me and my wife, it all goes to my children. But let's say I've got £1 million to give away. Of course, my children will be happy to receive that £1 million, but then they might go through a divorce during their lifetime. They might, face bankruptcies. They might have other issues during their lifetime. There is no way you can protect that money once it enters their estate. So if I give 1 million to my child and my child gets divorced, then half of it is gone. There's no way it can be protected because it belongs to them. But I can do the planning in such a way when I pass on my assets to them is that it's ring fenced from claim from their partners or anyone else, any third parties during their lifetime. So it remains protected. And also it protects against generational taxes as well. And what that means is that I give 1 million to my children. Now, let's say they make substantial wealth during their lifetime as well. So this 1 million is getting added to their 1 million and then again getting taxed at 40% when it goes to their children. So every generation, this money is getting taxed at 40%. Let's imagine it's not getting spent, it's just getting taxed. In 2 generations, it's gone. But I can pass it on in such a way to my children that it remains outside of their estate. They can dip into it whenever they want, but it does not enter their estate. So it does not form part of the inheritance tax calculation as well when it goes to them. So how am I able to protect against all these different risks is by ring fencing the assets in a trust in the will when I pass it on to the next generation. Yeah, so that's the way in which you can ring fence against all these third-party risks. So there are a few trusts that I can, just illustrate to you. I'm aware of the time, that it's not a lot of time to go through everything, but I'll just give you a flavor of maybe 1 or 2 trusts. But there are various types of trusts that can be used to ring fence your assets from depending on your situation, depending on what you're passing on to your children. Life insurance trust is not part of your will. I've just put there because most of the people in the UK have life insurance, and not many are aware that if you don't ring fence that in a trust, then that forms part of your estate on your death, and then could potentially get taxed at 40% when it goes to your children. So very important to ring fence that. Same with your pensions. The most important trust I would say here is a protective property trust, because the most high value asset that most people have in their estate is their main home. And what this does is that, excuse me, now what I said earlier was most of the people, they hold their properties jointly, but there's another way of owning your property called tenants in common. And if you hold it as tenants in common, then you still hold it together, but you own it in separate shares. So you own 50% and your spouse owns 50%. So we do a small change in the land registry. You own 50%, your spouse owns 50%. And then in my will, what I say is that when I die, my share of my main home is ring fence for my children. My wife has a life interest in the trust, in the property, which means that they can continue living in that property, they can downsize, move, sell. So we give them all rights. But let's say if they became bankrupt, then the creditors can only make a claim on their share, not on my share, because that's already ring fence for my children. If they go into if they remarry, the new partner can only make a claim on their share, not on my share, because that's ring fence. And if they go into care, usually property is held in such a way as just regarded for care fee assessment purposes, because half of a property does not really have an open market value. The same sort of planning can be extended to your entire estate, not just the main home. Let's say somebody has a buy-to-let portfolio, or somebody has significant other assets than the main home, then we can extend this planning to your whole estate, which means that all of it is ring-fenced from any third-party risks when it is getting passed on to your spouse and then to your children. Yeah, so different types of trusts, just a couple of more maybe might be of interest. One is if somebody has a business, a trading business, let's say a limited company, then you benefit from business relief from the government. So if it's a trading business and if you're holding it for more than 2 years, then you get 100% business relief on that business. And in your will, if you say, I give it all to my spouse, then you're wasting that relief, because there's no taxes between spouses anyway. So what we can do is ring fence that relief in a trust for your wife and your children, so that when you die, that does not form part of your estate, and the business can go tax-free to the next generation as well, and doesn't form part of the inheritance tax calculations. If somebody has children with special needs, again, that's a very it's an issue. It's a dilemma for the parents on how to leave money for them, because if you have children who have special needs, they benefit from certain government benefits, and the issue is all of these government benefits are means tested. So if you were to leave them an inheritance, they lose all their benefits. And also, of course, they can't manage the money because of the condition. So this trust is classified as a privileged trust by the HMRC. So there's a lot of tax benefits. There's no, ongoing charges or anything. And then this trust, the Disabled Discretionary Trust, is able to ring fence the money for the special needs child. And also they continue getting the government benefits. They don't lose it at all. So it's quite beneficial for beneficiaries who are special needs beneficiaries. Finally, the lasting power of attorney. Now, power of attorneys have been there for ages. It's basically something that you should consider giving to each other, because everyone owns some kind of asset, whether a small amount of savings in a bank account or a business empire. No one, not even your spouse or business partner, has the automatic right to deal with your assets once you lose mental capacity. And that is so true. In UK, there is no concept of next of kin due to data protection, GDPR, and all of that. Your spouse just cannot go and say, oh, I'm the spouse, give me the right, or I'm the child, give me the right. They don't know if you want your spouse to get rights to your assets. They don't know if you want your children to get involved in your financial dealings. So you will need to appoint them explicitly in the court as your attorney in order for them to act on your behalf with any financial institution in the UK. And there are basically two types. One is a property and affairs, which allows them to deal with any bank accounts, utility companies, HMRC, Companies House, courts, insurance companies, pension companies, you name it. It's any financial institution. They're able to deal with them on your behalf without the need for a court order. And the second type is a personal welfare, which is health one. So this is mostly showing about what happens if you go into care, what sort of decisions they're able to take, but also they can get access to your medical records. They can move you to another country for treatment. They can give or refuse consent to life-sustaining treatment. So there's a lot of things that can be done by your next of kin once you have appointed them as your attorneys in the court with the Office of the Public Guardian, and then it's there for life, so you don't have to revisit it again. But if you don't have this, and if you unfortunately were to lose capacity, then the other alternative is for them to go and get a deputyship order, a court order on your behalf, which is highly restrictive, quite tedious to acquire, and is very expensive as well. Just to give you an example, just the application process costs just over £5,000 for one person, and their ongoing charges just over £2,000 a year. So it can be very expensive, but if you do it now, it's just a few £100 and it's done, it's out of the way. So basically preempting all these different risks, and a professionally drafted will take into account the tax efficiency, outer risks, and your personal circumstances can go a long way in ensuring your family's assets are transformed with are transferred with minimum disruption. So these are the different kind of products that we do: trust planning, expression of wishes, power of attorneys, financial and health purposes. And so that's me. I think I've spoken a lot, and I will open the floor for any questions, but I think for you to digest all that information, and then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Sid. That was very wonderful. And can I say, before I forget, that you have put the code which you have put there, but can that code be changed to Serene Doctors if anybody wants to take the offer? Because that's a common promo code we use through this recording, as well as the audience who are present and will be watching later on the YouTube, because then it's easy for them to remember and us to remember, tell them which code it is. So can it be Serene Doctors code if people want to use your service?
Yeah, absolutely. We can get that changed. That's no problem at all.
Wonderful. That's number one thing. And second thing, of course, we'll be taking a quick short break in which Seema ji is joining us from International Association of Human Values, and she will be telling us a few things of wonderful charitable activities coming up and the organization is involved in, and people who may like to feel generous and contribute to the cause and hear to her for next few minutes. Meanwhile, of course, I hope people have put their questions in the chat box or can do that now. And Sid, you can meanwhile go through it, take a breath, and prepare your answers as well. Of course, listen to Seema ji as well. So is Seema Bhatia here at the moment?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Vivek, for having me, and thank you, Sid, for a wonderful presentation. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Seema Bhatia.
And Sid, can you take the presentation off the screen?
And oops, shall I continue or?
Just one, let me, so I think that's all off the screen. And can everybody see Seema? I can't.
Oh, you can't see me? I'm sorry, but my camera is on.
Maybe it's me.
No, we are able to see. I am able to see.
Carry on then.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Seema Bhatia, and I represent the International Association for Human Values. At the core of a worldwide charity called the International Association for Human Values, the association I feel very proud to be a part of, is the spirit of seva, selfless service or volunteering. Set up in 1997, they have helped over 100,000 people in challenges faced in conflict zones, disaster zones, refugees, people in prison, and women and children in underserved geographies throughout structured humanitarian seva projects. I would like to tell you all about a very special cause that I lead. It's known as the Project Pavitra. This is a project that was set up 6 years ago focusing on menstrual health and hygiene for young girls and women across Asia and Africa. It has over 2,500 trainers across 23 countries, and over 45,000 girls have benefited from the workshops, or I'd say our workshops. This project is extremely close to my heart. I see this as a cause that is often overlooked, which needs our focus, which needs love and needs care. So those of you who appreciate it, I would invite you all to come on board and help us volunteer for the project. It's a noble cause. It's a great way of giving back. There are many, many voluntary roles that we hold. We will be showcasing these on Sunday, the 19th of May at 4 p.m. in a 1-hour Zoom meeting. And Dr. Vivek Chabria can share the details. It would be wonderful to have you all with us and support the team. A very heart-opening project. Now, along with supporting other projects, we also have a lot of fun and laughter in the International Association of Human Values, and it is this spirit of love that keeps us all together. In June, we have the International Association of Human Values Activity Fun and Fundraising event. A wonderful opportunity for families to get together and help the International Association for Human Values humanitarian causes to join our annual signature event. The date is Sunday, the 23rd of June. Please put that down in your diaries. There are 2 ways one can participate. One is to come over to Regent's Park in London. In the morning, a few hundreds of us will be running to raise awareness and funds. The second way is to pick up walking, running, cycling, or any other challenge that you like and do it remotely or locally within your own town, neighborhood, or park. All the remote participants will be joined up through a Zoom link that will be held for 2 to 3 hours that morning. Children under 16 are also welcome. There are various distance breaks, so no one can have, to get exhausted. They can take a break, and you can do also a 5K walk, 5K walk if you're not very fit. The choice is yours. It's flexible. The main core of this is the spirit of participation. Very, very, very important. And that is what brings us all together. And if you'd like some more details, you can speak to Dr. Vivek Chabria on how to sign up. One last few words from me. Let us do this together in solidarity. I'd like to thank you all very much for having me, especially Dr. Vivek Chabria today for this wonderful program that you're offering and giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about the International Association for Human Values. I wish you all a very, very, very pleasant forward afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Dr. Chabra.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you so much. And when I heard about the Mission Pavitra, which is coming up, and how the ladies in Africa, it was heart-wrenching to hear that they let themselves get exploited to get the menstrual pads so that they can buy that. And that is the state of affairs in the world in which we are currently living. And it's not fair for us to not do something about it. And please feel free to share any link for charity contribution if members would like to on the chat link, please. If you have
I will do in the course of
there are many generous souls who are attending the seminar at the moment. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. I just landed from Nairobi actually day before yesterday, and conditions in Africa are quite bad for the young girls. So it is our responsibility to join hands and uplift the lives of others. So thank you very much, all of you. We look forward to having you all on board. Stay blessed, and thank you, Dr. Chabra.
Thank you. And over to you, Sid. You are ready to take questions and answers.
Yes, hi. Thank you for that, Seema ji. That was a very nice cause that you were speaking about. And I hope you are able to achieve what you're looking to. Right, so is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so this is I could see in the chat that somebody has requested. It's Mr. Prem. He's requested my contact details, so they can get in touch on these numbers to book a meeting. And yeah, so initial the consultations are no obligation, so we can have a chat and go through your circumstances, and only if you feel that it's adding we're able to add some value through the planning, then we can sign you up if you wish. Regarding the other questions, let me just go through them. So Mr. Anand Arora, rather I should say doctor, isn't it? Yeah, Dr. Arora, okay. He's asked a question regarding the inheritance tax allowance, that you lose the residential allowance once your estate is more than 2 million. Yes, that is correct. So basically the 1 million allowance is only available once till the estate is less than 2 million. Once it starts going over 2 million, then the allowance starts tapering down. And then once the value of your estate is more than 2.35 million, then you lose that additional allowance. And then anything over 650,000 as a couple, husband and wife, anything over 650,000 gets taxed at 40%. So any estate planning solution for that? Well, that would be an inheritance tax planning thing. And there's a lot of ways in which you can mitigate your inheritance tax planning. Of course, the main objective there would be to first of all try and bring the value of your estate less than 2 million, so that you're able to get the whole 1 million allowance. A lot of strategies are deployed by people, for example, gifting. So you can start, offloading your assets to your children once they are 18 plus. The annual allowance is £3,000 that you can give every year. Anything more than that, you need to live for 7 years for that to go tax-free outside of your estate. You can gift them directly. Any amount, there's no restriction. But if you gift assets to them in a trust, then there is a restriction of 325,000, which can go without any entry charge. Anything over 325,000 that you put into a trust, there is an entry charge of 20%. So which is half of the death rate. The lifetime rate is 20%, which again is not it's a very high charge. So up to 325,000, husband and wife, so you can give up to 650,000 in a trust every 7 years. And once you live for 7 years, that's outside of your estate. That's one of the ways you can do it. Now, gifting is usually something that people consider once they are, later stages in their life, when they're in the 60s or 70s, because when you are young, you do need access to that money, and you don't want to give it away. You don't want to give up a control to all your assets, because you might need them in your old age. So that's one of the things. I would say not one strategy can, there is no one strategy that can solve all the inheritance tax mitigation issues, but then you should use a combination of different things, of wealth management and tax planning. So one is gifting. The other thing is you can also put money in investments that qualify for business relief. So there are investments out there that once you hold them for 2 years, they attract 100% tax relief. And if you're holding them at the time of your death, they will go tax-free as well. You can take out insurance and write that in a trust. Now, that is something that can be available to your family to pay off any liabilities or any taxes. So there's quite a few ways of mitigating inheritance taxes, but the important thing is keep reviewing your tax position on a regular basis, and every 2-3 years you should sit down and review your estate planning, because the legislation keeps changing, the tax laws keep changing, new governments come. It's a political issue for most parties, inheritance taxes. So they keep coming out with new rules and regulations. The the allowances might change in the future, because 325K, I think, as far as I remember, for the last 15 years or so, it's the allowances have been frozen, so the base allowance, so that might change in the future. So it's something that you should keep reviewing on a regular basis, and it's a combination of financial planning and estate planning to mitigate all those taxes. But it's considered a voluntary tax, so you shouldn't have to pay it if you do the planning properly, and if you're paying it, then you're paying it voluntarily. Right. Discretionary reversionary trusts, usually it's kind of a gift trust where you put money up to 325,000. Like I said, there's a limit up to what you can put into a discretionary trust without an entry charge. So 325K. Reversionary interest is basically you're putting money into that with the view to mitigating your inheritance taxes, but then you're also, you're also using your right in that trust to get access to a certain percentage of capital every year if you need it. So what you're saying is that I want to give away money, but some percentage out of that I want to keep it for myself if possible. If I need, then I can withdraw. And there are financial instruments available like gift and loan investment schemes and investment bonds that allow you to invest money in a financial instrument, put it in a trust, and then maybe take out 5% every year tax-free, and any growth in that investment remains outside of your estate, does not form part of your estate for inheritance tax purposes. Yeah, so I've shared the contact details, and there's basically it's a vast area. There's a lot of things going on in inheritance tax planning. I think the latest budget announcement that they are looking to abolish the non-dom status and other things. So there is quite interesting what can play out through that from April 2025. So we are having a look at that. But yeah, I mean, by all means, please book a meeting and we can review your estate, give you our recommendation for everything that you need to think about and consider. And then you can go away and then you can decide if you want to do anything, then you can come back to us.
Just a quick question. How much is the percentage or discount you will give on your regular consultation fee if people give the promo code of Serene Doctors?
So that is something that I think it's basically, I think there is a price, and I think Piyush should be able to email that over to everyone.
Yeah, Vivek, from our standard price or regular price, we aim to offer them giving a discount of 10% on our standard price to anybody who is using the discount or code of Serene Doctors.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great. So I hope everybody found it useful. And one more thing, I would say that a lot of people here, they might have assets in India. So it's very important that you draw up your Indian wills in a certain way when you have Indian assets, and also how it can coordinate with your UK wills, and take into account the inheritance tax position because of the double tax treaty between India and UK, which if you go to a local place, you will not find that information. So very important to consider that when you're doing your estate planning, not to allow the Indian assets to form part of your UK inheritance tax net as well.
So can you do the will for Indian side as well, or do you have someone to recommend as a part of your team who can do for us if we need to get both done through you guys?
Yes, certainly, Vivek. We do have somebody in India who can support you with your India requirement, and we can connect the client or anybody coming from your group to our team in India who can do the India bit.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. House is open to all. If there are no questions in the chat box, feel free to ask and open your videos. Let's see each other's smiling faces as well. I can put it on the, what I should say, gallery mode. We can stop the screen sharing, Sethji. Yeah. And of course, feel free to support Mission Pavitra, which is a really very noble cause, and more than 50% of the target amount is generated. As you can see on the website link, around 38,000 has to be raised, 24 plus is raised. But if you can support it further, you can, of course, I think, claim income tax rebate as well. It's a UK based thing, so Charity Commission will help you with that. And we will consider that as a generous tribute to the efforts we put in organizing, putting our investment. If you can do that, we will take that as a reward for ourselves, of course, which is not going to us, but to the people who deserve more than we do. Thank you. So you can all open your videos at least. Before we wave goodbye, there are no questions. Unless until you are in your birthday suits. Hi Abu, you're driving. Good to see you, Pradeep. Long time. You were catching up nearly after 1 year, and you are muted also. Unmute yourself. Can't hear you, Pradeep.
Good to see. Good to see. Sorry, I'm in a car, so
It's all right, but you can give some feedback. How did you like it? And if, because the
yeah,
speakers would like to know how were they.
yeah. It's definitely very helpful. Thank you for arranging. Thank you.
Prem, Anup, Paul, JS, Pawan. Abu, you want to say something? You're muted. Anand.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just joined very late. I'm just coming back from from an event, doing a medical for an event.
Don't worry, there'll be YouTube recording, or you can witness later. We'll be hosting.
Yeah, sure. So Prem Kumar from Leicester is my friend who sent this link. So we didn't have much time. It was just today it came through. So I probably have to have a thank you very much for organizing it. So appreciate that is something which is needed for all of us to at some point to look through. And I do have some things in place, but I think again, as you mentioned about doing things back in India differently, to the assets in India differently to the ones in here, which is something I haven't done. So that's something I would like to pick up on. But maybe I was just wondering that I can collect some more people for another meeting, but I don't know if that's possible in our locality.
Everything is possible. You have the will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there'll be the same community. I'm from Norwich, so I'm Norwich based. So there's some community in Norwich, and perhaps arrange another date with the team, so that again, one is mutually beneficial. For us it's information, for them it's service provision. That would be great.
Definitely. And in fact, for me, the learning point was, even though I have will in place and all during COVID, but I was learning so many new things. Of course, one important thing was, if you have children under the 18, okay, that was a good learning point. But of course, my child is still less than 18, and we had a will in place. But then how to safeguard against the creditors and all, be it for the spouse, be it for the children, that was something, a total new thing, which I was not told, though I had a will through a proper solicitor and I paid them and all that stuff. And I said, wow, what is that? This is something I'm not fully aware of at all. And of course, I have to arrange a meeting with Sid to kind of look into all the affairs for all those reasons as well, and to kind of get updated, and including the India assets as well, which sounds very, very interesting thing. And of course, it's going to be work for me, and I have to pull out the time for it, because it's quite important and essential, I feel, as you are saying as well. And of course, we can arrange another meeting. Feel free to contact us. Feel free to come on our Yogi Doctors group as well. On the YouTube channel, you will find this recording. You can share that recording, but if you want one-to-one interaction organized through us, we'll be more than happy to organize, because there are many people in our group also who are not able to make it for one or other reason. We have got around, the circular went around to 400 or 500 people, but of course, it's difficult to manage it. But the YouTube viewings later let us know how much hits we get, because people do watch it as per our previous experiences or previous presentations of similar nature.
Thanks very much, Vivek and Sid and Seema. This is Prem here from Leicester. Sabu said, I mean, I joined earlier on. I mean, we all have got the, kind of simple will, mirror will, but you have covered a lot of other things. The deemed domicile status, the joint held assets, and a lot of kind of things on top of the simple one we all have. So kind of I think it's really a good idea to go through like a kind of one-to-one meeting to catch up with you to look at the requirements one-to-one basis actually. So it's really kind of opened it up quite a bit, and yeah, so we will get in touch with you. I will pass these details to my friend circle as well, and then maybe like Abu requested, if there are many people interested, then we if we could have another session, that'd be helpful as well.
That's great. Glad you like.
Prem, can I also request you to pass the Serene Doctors promo code as well, because that will help them get them discounts as well, as 10% promised by Piyush. And at the same time, of course, we also get some referral incentive, which helps us cover some cost towards Zoom and all the things. We invest our monies from our pocket and to run the company business manner. So it gives us the necessary business model to be able to continue doing these activities, for which some finances are always needed and welcome. Absolutely. So, but we believe in going in the way that everybody is helping out each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, will do. Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Everybody wins in that situation.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Thanks.
And if I can suggest something before the meeting, or if we do organize one meeting, just wonder if it would be beneficial for the individuals and wider group if we ask for some questions, so that we feed our questions back to Piyush prior to the meeting, so that they can come back with some ready-made answers, so that then it's much more helpful for the individual and for somebody else who may be thinking the same, perhaps, because it's hard for Piyush to cover all sort of possible scenarios.
You're very right, and I think I'll take it as a very positive feedback, and I have seen one person doing like that kind of presentations. So from the next sessions, from whosoever, whatever topic we will do, we will also put it in our flyers, that any questions you have to wanting to send in advance prior to the seminar, do send it on this XYZ email address, so that the presenter comes prepared accordingly for that kind of scenario as well in their presentation, which will help with more engagement and be more focused about some particular things which we may not be able to cover otherwise, which are important. Thank you.
It makes the participant think about it rather than just clicking and attending. Makes the participant think about it, so that, as you said, engagement is bilateral.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. It's fantastic feedback. Anand, you are muted, I think. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. You're not muted, but we can't hear you. Your voice is not.
He says he's going to type.
You can log in from some other instrument. Otherwise, this one is causing trouble. Anup, you want to say something?
I'm okay. It is a nice presentation. I will be willing to contact them directly to have some further needs, actually. Let's see how we go on. Yeah.
Thank you. Even I feel the same exactly. Pawan Batu.
Vivek, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Vivek, many thanks firstly, because as you said, I mean, we all have like a basic will, but the things I got to know today, as you said, was the separate will for India and here, and moreover to review it every 2-3 years, because our financial position and our objectives and kids getting elderly and all those things. Definitely, it's worth thinking about. I think, like you said, I had my done like during COVID times because everybody was worried at that time. But now I think have to take some time now to do as
Yeah.
what you do.
And
Many
on
thanks.
the top, like, if you can go into a care home kind of thing, it will eat up the whole money. How to kind of protect
Yeah.
that is
So,
something I
yeah.
never thought of.
Yeah, even the ring fencing thing, which is quite new to me, so that we
Yeah.
can ring fence and how it goes into our own family tree and things like that. So that's quite helpful to know. And then we need to kind of get into the loophole so that it's only the immediate lineage gets benefited rather than somebody else. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. So shall we, Anand, are you able to connect? You are muted. We have 2 minutes. Yes, Anand is here. But can't hear you, Anand.
I think Anand has typed his question.
Okay.
Difference between the estate planning and IHT planning. I mean, is that the question too? I don't know who can answer that.
Okay, right. Yeah, I can see
You
the
can
chat.
see, yeah?
Right. Yes. Anand, hi, thanks for your question. So IHT planning is essentially part of the estate planning process, because in estate planning, we're looking at your whole estate. So whatever you have in your name, and then how it can be passed on to the next generation in the most tax efficient manner. So even though IHT planning is not part of the will, so just by writing a will, we cannot mitigate all the inheritance taxes. But there are a lot of strategies that you can use during your lifetime to mitigate inheritance taxes. And like I said, it is an ongoing thing that needs to be done, because the value of your estate will keep on changing during your lifetime, and the legislation and tax laws will keep on changing. So it is something that we should review on a regular basis, so that, for example, the 7-year rule, you can only do if you start at 50, maybe you can do a few cycles to mitigate that strategy through gifting. But if you start at 80, then you probably can do only one cycle. So it's something that you should review on a regular basis to be able to mitigate your inheritance taxes. And if you do it properly, then everything goes tax-free to your next of kin.
One last question from my side, I think. Of course, you help covering the thing in India, but what about other countries? Because we have colleagues who will be watching on the video and in the group also, who are from different countries, including Pakistan, African countries. So people are from all over the world, basically, who will be watching the video. So can you help them regarding the will in their own respective countries and as per the taxation treaty in place, please? Can you let us know?
I think what they should do is consult the local solicitor in those areas to get the wills done. Because the double tax treaty is not with every country. UK only has it with 2-3 countries in the world for inheritance taxes. I think there's India, Pakistan, and probably Denmark. So about 3 countries in the world where they have the treaty in place. So we are fortunate that we belong to that country. I mean, if you're from US or if you're from Europe or, like some other country, then your worldwide assets are taken into consideration. You have to pay 40% on that. So there is an opportunity, tax planning opportunity that's available to people who are from India. So, but yeah, if they are from any other countries, then they should consult the local tax expert, because, for example, if you take into US, every state has different rules. It's a federal system of taxation and laws there. So, yeah.
But you can guide them on case to case basis which direction to go at least.
Yeah, absolutely. We can tell them what are the things they need to speak to their local solicitor or the local tax expert, and they can speak to them and they can get more information from them.
And in Pakistan, you have somebody local as well at the moment? No.
No, Vivek, we don't have anyone from Pakistan. We currently are supporting India and UK. So we can cover for both these countries. As far as other countries are there, we can guide them specifics of the details which they need to cover up in their local country. But as far as finding the local attorney is concerned, that will be left on them, whom they would like to go ahead with. But we
But you
can
can always look into it, what exactly is being discussed or kind of drafted to fine tune things if need then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to give you a quick example, let's say if you do a will in India after your UK will, and you say in your Indian will that I revoke all my previous wills, then it cancels your UK will as well. So you need to prepare the will in such a way that your UK will is valid as well, and the Indian will is valid as well. So there needs to be specific clauses in both the wills so that both the wills are, active.
Interesting. Thank you. So anybody wants to ask anything or add anything, comment anything, including the speakers, please feel free. I'll hold for 10 seconds before otherwise we call off for the evening for a wonderful presentation, for which I'm very grateful.
I think there is a question from Anand saying that do you have any links with Indian CA? So just to take 2 minutes to basically explain what all Excelentra does, Anand. So Anand, I am a chartered accountant by profession, and we provide not only estate planning services. Excelentra do provide accounting, bookkeeping, taxation advisory, payroll services in the UK as well as in India, and we do have a presence in 18 countries in Europe. I am in discussion with Vivek to make a presentation on tax insight of UK, especially for people from Indian origin or origin other than UK, how the global income taxation impact is there in this country. We would be covering in a future seminar once Vivek gives us a slot when we can do that seminar. So we would be covering on that. So as far as your question on Indian CA and accounting requirement is covered, we would be certainly able to help you and support you with that.
I can share, Anand, that Piyush's presentation is lying with me for last 8-9 months, and it's one of the excellent presentations. It's just slowness on my side that it has kind of thing. And actually, Piyush was supposed to do it today, but then he suggested that let's do it because of his commitments coming up. But I'm planning in very next few weeks, within a month maximum, hopefully, we will have Piyush as well because of the quality and standards they provide. And this came from the group. We must thank one of the ex-directors of Serene Doctors company who is friend of Anup, and the psychiatrist, I'm forgetting the name right now, who connected me to Piyush. Sorry, what's his name?
Karun.
Karun Goyal.
Yeah.
So, it's all coming from the group. The group is giving us back to something more than we started with, kind of, and that's the whole spirit, helping out each other. And with that spirit, we move on and get connected to the right people who can fulfill our requirements. We can satisfy their requirements, their business, and we get benefited out of it without much hassles at all. Otherwise, we keep on wondering where to go for such an important issues, which we are more ignorant than knowledgeable of, to be honest with you. So over to you guys. Okay then, so big thumbs up to the whole presentation, and thank you for all again. It will be hosted over the YouTube channel, and definitely for the accountant side, Piyush will be coming shortly as well. So stay tuned, and thanks again for joining us, those who are watching right now and those who are watching our recording. And Serene Doctors is coming with a very good website very soon, in which all our affiliates will be with this recording links will also be coming up. So that's it for the time being, with lots coming up in the future. Have a very good evening.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you.